Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darragh O'Connor.
Yo, what's going on? It's Leon Slater, and you are listening to Darragh O'Connor on the Wrestling Rewind. You get me?
I'm Tom Hannafin from TNA Wrestling. You're listening to the Wrestling Rewind.
Come to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Hello folks, it is Tuesday here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. Welcome to the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling. Again, thank you for bearing with us. All the shows have gone up. Our channel is updated. A lot of really good content. If this is your first time checking us out on the radio and you're like, what are you talking about? nerdtoknowmedia.com or nerdtoknowmedia on YouTube is where you can check out all of our content. We have a bunch of shows, both this show, The Wrestling Rewind, and of course, Nerd to Know Basis, which has a bunch of new content. But this is The Wrestling Rewind, episode 229, TNA firings, CM Punk rumors, Mick Foley's last match, and NXT Brooklyn. We have a lot to get through this week. And look, there's a bunch of content that's coming out like next week. So we are aware that there's 3 pay-per-views coming up, or 3 PLEs, or whatever you want to call them. I don't really care what you call them, but we are not going to cover them this week because we want to do our predictions next week. And Christopher again told me last week to go watch TakeOver because it's been a while, and boy did I have a really good time. But as I said, I'm Darragh O'Connor and I'm joined by my co-host Christopher Fanning. Christopher, how are you doing, sir?
Too bad, a little warm in Texas, but I am here ready to talk about everything and anything.
It's a little warm in Ireland as well, but we don't have air conditioning, so I have a little fan on, and that's the best we got. So I'm jealous of air conditioning. I really am. I have to say, we were talking a little bit before we went on air, and I mentioned it on Nerd to Know Basis, but the World Cup is on, and the US is doing quite well. You guys won your game today because we're recording this on Friday. I love the fact that people have gone to the US now, and they're like, "Oh my god, air conditioning's amazing," and all the great stuff that the US has. So I hope now that wins the battle, and we get air conditioning in Europe. Because it just makes things so much easier. It really does. You can function and you don't wake up sweaty constantly in the summer. It's brilliant. Here's what's wild, right? When you're in somewhere like Las Vegas, which is in the desert, obviously, and you have to, when you're indoors, you have to wear a hoodie. Insane.
That's fact right there. That's fact.
Insane. But you somewhere in Europe, you're melting because they don't have air conditioning. It's so silly. But there we go. That's just something that I was like, oh, maybe the results of this World Cup will be that Europeans finally move into the 21st century. Okay, so we got some really weird news. And I look, this week has been a strange week. I didn't think that it was going to be this, but I got an email from TNA, and it was unlike anything else I got before. I was just kind of like, see attached statement, and I was like, okay. A lot of personnel changes in TNA this week. It's still a developing story. There's a lot of details that are out there, but still a lot of details that aren't. I've tried to reach out to what's going on, and a lot of it seems to be official, but there's a lot of concern as well, right? So for anyone that doesn't know, big departures from TNA this week. Tommy Dreamer, Tessa Blanchard, Sami Callihan, a bunch of backstage personnel, and more workforces cuts internally, right? So that's concerning. That hasn't happened in a while. Like, TNA have been on a bit of an upswing for a while, and it seems that now they've gone this direction. And Tommy Dreamer was on Busted Open Radio, and he was saying that, look, effective immediately, Dreamer's basically gone, and he was upset. So TNA said that, quote, a workforce reduction designed to streamline operations and sharpen strategic focus and profitability. But they said that's not the only reason. Sami Callihan was he basically said, look, I thought I was going to be called in for a creative position. No, he's just gone. So I don't have any further knowledge on that than what I've seen and what's out there. But it definitely is a surprising thing. You know, Tommy Dreamer sounded very upset. You can check out that episode of Bustin' Open Radio where he basically cries. And no one saw that coming. So look, I don't think Tommy Dreamer gets enough credit. Like, everybody thinks Tommy Dreamer is just an ECW, and that's true. But in TNA, he wasn't just talent. He was in creative. He was talent relations. He did production. He really was one of these big figures in TNA since Scott D'Amore left. So that's surprising. You know, the last time we saw someone like this leaving, it was when Scott D'Amore left. And we got that big turn into what TNA became there for a while. And that probably was under Tommy Dreamer. Sami Callihan being gone was surprising as well, because look, he's been a big figure in TNA. But this could be cost cutting, but it also could be a creative reset. Now, with Tessa Blanchard, she left. Now, from what I gather about this was a less of a cost cutting thing and more because of her working relationship in Mexico. Did you hear about this, Christopher, at all?
I heard something about it, but I didn't get a whole lot of detail.
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, the Tessa Blanchard thing is wild. We should actually cover that at some point. She's a former TNA men's champion. Were you aware of this?
I was, actually.
Yeah, so we will get into that and that whole thing maybe down the line. But here's why Tesla said she left TNA, and this is from the PW Torch. Quote, Blanchard said she left TNA because they asked her to choose between wrestling for TNA or CMLL. She chose to wrestle for CMLL because she said, quote, the truth is I've received a lot of messages from friends and news and I haven't replied to any of them yet, appearing on CMLL Informa. I want to sort things out and set the record straight today. Here I have a life. I feel very happy. The US company TNA asked me, Tessa, you need to decide if you're a TNA wrestler or a wrestler for CMLL. I took my time to think it over with my dad, who I trust very much. My life is here. I'm not just another foreigner. I'm the most Mexican gringa. That's what she said. She seems like it really was just a choice between what they're going forward in CMLL and TNA. And, you know, what's interesting about that one, that's the most interesting one. The Tommy Dreamer one is sad, but it seems to be creative. The Sami Callihan one is surprising, but not really that surprising. But this one is. Now, I don't know if you were watching the Undertaker interview with Rey Mysterio recently. So in that, Rey Mysterio is the on-screen GM for AAA. And obviously, yes, Taker is booking AAA. AAA's biggest competition is CMLL in Mexico. AAA are going to the home of that company in just a couple of weeks. And it didn't really seem like Taker wanted to talk about anything else that wasn't AAA. So this could be, again, speculation. We don't know. I haven't been told anything, even with people I know in TNA. All I've heard is what you guys have so far. But I want to set something straight here. I don't think this is like a cause for concern. I don't think they're going bankrupt or losing money or like that. It just seems to be a bit of a shift from what it was. And again, look, this is a developing story. But yesterday there was reports that Road Dogg was reached out for creative with TNA. So there's a report last night from Wrestling Inc. Report claims TNA and Road Dogg have been in talks ahead of recent backstage departures. But, you know, we don't really know what it was like. You know, all we see is what's on the TV. But Road Dogg has been in creative with TNA would make a lot of sense. He was a big player there. He was a former world champion, former tag team champion. He kind of did everything in TNA. And it definitely suggests that going forward, TNA is going to be probably one to watch because it again, we haven't seen this kind of shake-up in quite some time. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm cautiously optimistic. It is always surprising when this happens. And again, I get emails from TNA pretty much all the time, and it's very strange. I never got an email like that before from them, you know. So definitely it seems that either this is a full reset in some way where they're kind of building towards the future, or it was a bit more shocking than that. So we don't really fully know. But we'll keep an eye on it and we'll let you know as we know. But that's it. I don't think TNA is in trouble. It definitely doesn't feel like TNA is a dying company. It definitely feels like it's changing. And it seems like it was a big systemic change. Look, they're on AMC at the moment. They have Slammiversary coming up. It's going to be a pretty big deal. They've also signed a bunch of talent this week, including former Knockouts champion Tasha Steeles. And look, Ali's also just come back as well. They did some more signings today. So, yeah, I just wanted to get in front of some of those. Trey Miguel just re-signed as well today. I just wanted to get in front of those, weird things on the internet where you're like, oh, TNA is dying. It's like, no, it's not. It's just changing. But it's weird because, I don't know what it is, man. If this happened in AEW, people would be like, oh, no. If this happened in WWE, it wouldn't even make the news. Why do you think this has made such news around the wrestling media?
I think a big part of it, and you said it yourself, it's literally a week away from their biggest event, the Slammiversary. So, me personally, they could have waited till after to say this, but I think this is just me spitballing here. This could be to help generate buzz for the show because you got to remember there's 4 pay-per-views that weekend. You have WWE,
That's true.
NXTs, AEWs, and TNAs. So it's like, okay, and from a content creator, YouTuber standpoint, I'm sitting here going, okay, I need to pick 2. Which 2 am I going to pick to talk about? Because I could talk about all 4, but my job would get in the way of that. And I like getting paid. I like having a roof over my head. So I have to pick and choose. And I think they're just doing it to build publicity. Kind of like what AEW did right before one of their shows when Darby Allin won the title. It was to generate buzz for themselves and take away some of the limelight from WWE. Again, we can speculate all day if that's true or not, but that's just the way it looked. And that's just my take on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's one I didn't consider, but when you actually lay it out, it makes an awful lot of sense. It's a weird one.
Yeah.
Definitely is, but TNA has dominated the news cycle this week, so it definitely worked. Another thing that has dominated the news cycle this week, again, look, we talked about it last week. People still think CM Punk is leaving.
My God.
But WWE has effectively shut this down this week. Cage side seats, basically all but confirmed that Punk is back in WWE. With SummerSlam return, possible Cody Rhodes match, whatever, we don't really know. But he has returned to commentary last night for a random MMA promotion. But more importantly, WWE announced his involvement in a bunch of WWF and a bunch of WWE activities with Fan Addicts Fest in July. So there we go. I don't really know what people were expecting, but yeah, he's going to be in
New York. They want to believe. People are going to believe what they want to believe. You give them a little crumb, it becomes an entire stack of bread. Oh my God, this is people need to wait for the facts before they start talking about it.
You know what? It wasn't, but the crazy thing about this specific story, and look, it's fun to say, it's fun to speculate, it's fun to do random booking, but it was just like he patched things up with AEW as if that was ever going to be a thing. Like, it wasn't just he fell out with one person. He fell out with everybody. He literally fought now you can, whatever side you want on that, but it's like he actively did not want to be there. They gave him his own, it wasn't like they had a personnel change. And I think, look, if this had been 10 years later and he was going back in creative, but then again, we wouldn't want to do that. I mean, creative in AEW is Tony Khan. It is the Bucks. They're not leaving. And people be like, oh, but that happened in WWE. It's like, kinda. Vince McMahon left. Vince isn't running WWE anymore. Triple H isn't even running WWE anymore. TKO is running WWE, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference, and that gets lost with these people, where they're like, they create some weird narrative that isn't even close to reality. And I would say, look, if that's the way you like to be a fan, I respect that and I appreciate that, but it's very strange. If people had to come out and said, hey, Punk is walking away from WWE and, he wants to go and try out with TNA and maybe win the championship there or get involved with creative. You know what? That would make that would be realistic. Maybe he does want to win the championship, or maybe he, because remember the whole thing was that he was angry and politicking that he didn't win his match against Roman, which again, come on, like for real. But that would have made sense. Okay, he's going to TNA, he'll have a run with the belt, and then he'll be able to run creative. Makes sense. That's what Jeff Jarrett did. That's what a couple of people have done in different companies. Absolutely. But no, it was like, no, he's going back to AEW, the place that fired him, the place that he, was brought back to give him an all. So they tried everything. So what? He's going to go back again to the same place that he got fired from, that he fought with everybody because they were mistreating him, to the place that couldn't even book him transport from London to the venue, and then publicly fired him. And then a year later showed the backstage footage of why he got fired. What are you talking about? Crazy. Just wait, folks. It's called wrestling. The man needed time off. He's getting up there. Everybody wants vacation.
That's that, but they leaked that backstage footage right. It was either right at or right after he went back to WWE. It's like, oh, well, here's what you're getting. And
they leaked that footage WrestleMania Saturday.
That's what it was. It was WrestleMania. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Sorry,
it was after he went back.
No, sorry, it was the week after WrestleMania, or the week just before WrestleMania, or just after 40, because I was in New York. And I was like, oh, I'll never forget. I'm like, whoa, they actually just played the footage. I can't believe they played the footage. I'll never forget it. It's the only time I watched AEW live was to just see if they played the footage, and they did, and I was just like, that's crazy. Yeah, he had just come back. He got injured in the Rumble, and he was at WrestleMania. And then I think it's one of the only times where Punk had like massive ratings for his segment on Raw and WrestleMania, and then was the top segment on AEW in the same week. It was wild. But there you go. So look, we'll keep an eye on that as well. I'm assuming Punk will show up soon. Obviously he's been announced for these events in July. So maybe he shows up this week. Maybe it's after King of the Ring. Probably makes sense that would be the case, and start building towards SummerSlam. We had another bit of news story from SummerSlam, and apparently there was some concern around the roof. So I didn't know about this. Did you know about this?
I know the roof has had an issue in the past, but that might have been the old stadium. I think they built a new one since then. But
so what happened?
I didn't hear about it.
So what happened was, according to the Minnesota Star Tribune, there was a significant portion of the stadium scheduled to be replaced for the past couple of years, and this is after a severe storm in 2023. But WWE has been assured that the roof is fine. They've held a bunch of stadium shows there before, a bunch of football games and concerts and all that kind of stuff. So there shouldn't be an issue. The Super Bowl was even there at some point. So there isn't any issue to be expected with this. And it looks like it is just going to go on as normal. So that's good. But I was just like, whoa, I didn't even hear about that. So yeah, if you're going to SummerSlam and have your tickets, I think you'll be fine. The US Bank Stadium will be standing. So that's good to hear, and the roof won't just disappear. And that would make for some Michael, wouldn't it? Oh my God, they tore the roof off the place. Literally.
Well, that happened a couple of years ago. There was a real bad snowstorm in the Midwest, and there was a video from the stadium, and snow just started piling in from the roof. The storm was that bad. Yeah.
Wow. That's wild. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of crazy, so again, we talked about this last week, but rumors persist. Mick Foley, one last match. So they were saying that there is reports suggest, and this is from NoDQ.com, that AEW are interested in this if he gets cleared. PW Mania have said that Mick Foley has one more match in him. And look, one name keeps popping up. It's MJF. That's kind of the thing. I don't know. Look, I get why people want it. One final farewell. Well, Foley wants it. Nostalgia. But look, the concussions, the hip replacement. Nah. Look, here's my take, and I'll leave it at this and let you jump in, Christopher. Every wrestling fan wants Mick Foley to have one last match. Until people remember what these matches involve. They're not going to have him out there doing hip tosses and, mat wrestling. It's like, no, it's going to be fire, it's going to be barbed wire, it's going to be thumbtacks, it's going to be him taking crazy spots, been thrown off things, hit with chairs, and it'll be unprotected chair shots because, of course, it will be. I don't want that. I don't want to see that. I've seen that for years. Look, I won't even watch Royal Rumble 99 anymore. I won't watch that main event because it's disgusting. And that was when he was healthy, not when he was a 60-year-old man who's done everything. Look, if you're an AEW fan and you want this and you think we're being pearl clutchers here, go watch his run in TNA. And then come back. We'll wait. You can pause this and you can come back. It wasn't good. He had one or two good matches. I will concede that. But he didn't need them then. He had already retired twice at this point. That was like 10, 15 years ago. What possible reason can you have now for Mick Foley to roll around the thumbtacks, barbed wire and set himself on fire? No, it's just abuse. It's just elder abuse at that point. Why? Christopher, where do you stand on this, man?
It's a cash grab is what it is. And I'm sorry, if he passes the physical, they're going to dot. If I'm not accusing anybody of anything when I say this, but they're going to find a way for him to go, oh yeah, he's fine, but yet he's had hip replacement surgery, he's had knee surgeries, he's had concussions, he's missing half of his ear, for God's sake. Are you kidding me right now? No, I don't want to see this.
If he passes the physical, questions have to be asked. What are they testing?
How?
Yeah, what are they testing, right? It's like, okay, I mean, what doesn't pass the physical? And look, I've met Tony Khan. He's a nice guy. Got to talk a bunch to people backstage in AEW. They seem nice, blah, blah, blah. It's not necessarily something that I like watching because it's not really my style or whatever, but they do good content. Their pay-per-views are always worth it.
Yeah.
But I will say there needs to be some level of reality here. It's like Mick Foley being on your roster as a manager, as a performer, as general manager, authority figure, whatever form of that you wanted to be is one thing, right? You can even get involved as a special guest referee and do Mr. Socko and hit with chairs and hit other people with chairs or whatever. That's one. Even throw barbed wire to somebody or set someone else on fire. If they really want to do that, that's what they could do, right?
Yeah.
Worlds away from him doing a 20-minute, 15-minute match where he's going onto the fire and he's gone onto the barbed wire and there's thumbtacks everywhere and then they use real glass and the mind boggles who actually wants to see that. And Sting is the problem here because they're like, oh, well, Sting did it. That's very different. Sting didn't really make it
much better shape. Let's be real here.
But also, look, and he did have that neck injury with Seth Rollins, and that was unfortunate, but that was a freak accident. Sting wasn't out there wasn't having the same matches that Mick Foley had. He wasn't, here's the thing, man. I didn't realize Mick Foley was that young when he was wrestling in WWE. Because his body was in such bad. He was just about 30 when he was having a match with The Rock. The man moved like he was 45, 50. His body was broken then, And there's a great podcast, Stevie Richards' podcast is very good. And he was just like, no one has worked with Foley as much as Stevie Richards has at different points of his career. Worked with him in WWE, worked out with TNA for a while. And he's like, yeah, look, Foley could do this kind of stuff, but it was definitely starting to slow down. And you can check it out. It's on YouTube. And I just don't see the value of this. If they want to give Mick Foley a send-off, Absolutely. Go and do it. Give him the best send-off you can, the biggest venue that you have. Put him in your Hall of Fame if you have one. I don't think they do, but whatever, that doesn't matter. I just don't see the value of him putting his body on the line in such a vital, because it won't just be a wrestling match. It will be blood everywhere, hardcore garbage wrestling, and then what? He loses or he wins, and then what's gained from this? What if Foley dies?
That's a valid argument to make.
You know, I mean, like Ric Flair nearly died, had a heart attack on the ringside because no one told him no. And if I'm wrong, tell me why. Tell me why you want to see that. Genuinely, I just don't get it. It's like, he's done enough. If you want to see Mick Foley being basically beaten to death, you can watch it. It's called Royal Rumble 1999. The Rock beat him half to death with his chair. It's genuinely horrific. It was hands.
Yes.
It's completely unprotected. There's 15 chair shots, unprotected. Oof. 15. If you want to watch that, go watch it. You know, you can see it now. If you want to see him roll around in thumbtacks, there's loads of matches. If you want to see him roll around in barbed wire and fire, there's loads of matches from Japan where that's all it is. I just, you know, and it's funny, right? The Mick Foley again, he will do the Mr. Socko thing, which is so antithetical to AEW, really. And it's like, yeah, he can do that as well. Like, I just don't see any value of it at this point. Other than, again, but then on the other side of the coin is, as a general manager, absolutely. That would be cool. An on-screen authority figure, great. An ambassador, loads of things. Even a manager, you know, there could be like a hardcore wrestler there, and he could be like, here's how you do it, or, you know, something like that. You could lead a stable. There are creative ways to do Mick Foley's gimmick without having his body on the line. I don't think that's a hot take.
No, it's not.
Okay. Well, let's change, and hopefully that's the last time you have to talk about it. Hopefully it's not like next week at you know, Double or Nothing or something else, or, you know, they're like Mick. If it happens, we'll obviously watch it, not just for this show, but also because, you know, you'll watch our time machine. Our time machine was wonderful this week. It went to a very cool place. It went all the way to Brooklyn, August 22nd, 2015. The Barclays Center, aka the Battle for Brooklyn. NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Sir, you picked this. Fantastic pick. Really, really enjoyable. And there were one or two kind of meh, but this was fire the whole way. And we didn't even get to see all of it, because like the first 4 matches were all dark matches, which, you know, I probably would have liked to see that Emma match. That was pretty cool. I know your girl Becky was there, but Charlotte wasn't. She was there too, so I was kind of glad to not see Charlotte. I'll be honest. But yeah, we ended up with a pretty decent card here. Obviously ending with the ladder match, the spectacular ladder match for the NXT Championship. Finn Balor defeating Kevin Owens. So look, before we get into this, was this worth revisiting for you? What are your thoughts on this pay-per-view in general?
Yeah, 100%. And we actually reviewed this on my show, but I remember this was the year of Kevin Owens, because earlier in that year was when Kevin Owens picked a fight with John Cena when he was the U.S. champion. And Kevin Owens at the time was the champion. And of course, Finn Balor through the process became champion. So this kind of, for me, it came full circle and at the time I was not the biggest Kevin Owens fan because I was the biggest Cena fan. And so my hate for Kevin Owens was real. And so watching him lose, I'm like, you know, back in 2015, yay. But looking back at it now, it's like, you know, KO's not that bad of a guy. He's just a character. I accept it for what it is. But this was such a great, I'd forgotten how good this show was. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first NXT show that I ever watched. Mm-hmm. Like pay-per-view, not just the weekly shows, but the actual pay-per-view that I got to watch. Because they advertised it on the WWE Network, which was only 2 or 3 years old at this time.
Yes. And it was just before SummerSlam as well. It was like literally the day before.
Yes.
Look, that wasn't a great SummerSlam, to be fair. But I remember the hype around this. This was a turning point, and it was I'm going to go out and say it's the pinnacle of NXT in general, but definitely at this point it was just this and basically Finn Balor's entire NXT run, and then the Joe run was really good as well. And despite how bad the match with on this card kind of was, when Joe got the belt as well, it was a really, really good illustration of how NXT was at this point and what they were trying to achieve. Definitely one of the strongest card which you can just give someone. I was shocked this was on YouTube. I was able to watch this on the NXT YouTube channel for free.
Oh, really?
Entirely, yeah. WWE are just posting. I think because the network broke up and the way it's kind of being distributed around the world, like obviously, you know, in the US, you have to, you know, have 17 different subscriptions and, you know, do a pagan blood ritual at a certain point of the year to watch a pay-per-view, you know.
I just have to do a VPN to watch the show, but yeah.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. Or you can just do a VPN and watch it anywhere else. But the knock-on effect of that is, I mean, like the WWE, WCW channel is really good. The NXT channel is really good. I think they'll probably do an ECW channel at some point. So at least it's up on YouTube. But when I was Googling it, I was just like, oh man, this is wild. Okay. And I was just able to watch the whole thing on YouTube. So I guess there's an upside to the network going. But again, given the choice, I really wish they brought the network back. But that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, man, look, this show, absolutely fantastic. This was, so I started watching NXT when I watched it when it was the game show, and then I just kind of was like, okay, I'm never watching that again. And we were doing the desk at that time, and I had someone come on to basically talk about NXT, and I remember that change where around 2014, 2015, that's when it was like, no, actually it's really, really good. You do actually need to watch it. So I was watching at this point, but I remember around this time, this is when it was on fire. It was red hot. You can even see Triple H coming out, and he's getting kind of boozed, but not really, because the crowd are super into it then.
Yeah.
And it's funny because this kind of was AEW before AEW. I do believe NXT at this time is what AEW took and went the other direction with it, you know? And I'll also say, if NXT continued this way, there wouldn't have been an AEW. Genuinely. And I'm not saying that because AEW is bad or because I don't like it, but I think this delivered what people wanted. This is the product that WWE would, because the actual product at the time was kind of garbage, but NXT was where you wanted to watch it. The real wrestling fans, or the people who consider themselves to be real wrestling fans, would watch this, and you know, you can see it, you can feel it. The atmosphere in the arena is electric the whole way, even when you have Baron Corbin out there. That was a really bad match. Oh, okay, we'll get to it. But it's been a while since I watched this show. I really, really enjoyed it. I think there's certain elements I would have liked to have been pulled back or to have gone longer, but as a whole, it was a decent watch. It's not super long. It's exactly where it needs to be. And yeah, like, let's start off with the first match. So Tyler Breeze, who is still randomly under contract with WWE, but not really. He just shows up for the video games. So every time I see Tyler Breeze, I'm like, I don't understand how your career went, but fair enough. Good wrestler. Him there with Justin Thunder Liger, that was great, because obviously, like, if you were a WCW fan like I was, he was always kind of there. He's one of those wrestlers that you would just be like, oh yeah. You know, and obviously, look, he's a New Japan guy, we know that, but as far as Western wrestling goes, when you think of those wrestlers who made that jump, who were always around, it's Justin Thunder Liger. He was in WCW, he was in Ring of Honor, and he was also in TNA, but I remember seeing him as a kid in WCW and go, oh, he looks interesting, that's cool, and then you'd obviously get an appreciation for what he is. So I think they worked a great match with Tyler Breeze. Very, very fun, about 9-minute match. It wasn't crazy long, but it was great to see Justin Thunder Liger get the win. A really, really fun sequence there at the end. Phenomenal match. End to end.
Oh yeah, agreed.
End to end. Okay. Yeah, and look, the next match was a pretty decent NXT Tag Team match. It was the Vaudevillains defeated Blake and Murphy with Alexa Bliss. I forgot Alexa Bliss was on this card. So that was kind of surprising. And look, what's cool about this is, like, obviously everyone here would go on to be very, very different even a couple of years later. But
Yeah.
this was a very, very strong period for NXT. Their tag team division were great. I really liked the Ascension as well. I thought they were really cool in NXT, and then they went to the main roster and they were destroyed. But this match sums up why people watch NXT. You got your 3-ring circus. You got your really strong women's division. You got your special attraction match. You got your phenomenal tag team match. You got some filler, and you did. We'll get to that. But it capped off then with your main event. So you went home happy, but this was a really, really strong tag team match.
Agreed. And this is around the time that Alexa Bliss was dating Blake Murphy.
That's true.
They were dating. Obviously, he's married to Rhea Ripley now. This is, I think, Alexa Bliss was still fairly new in the company. She came in like a long time after the Four Horsewomen came in, so she was still kind of finding her. And that seemed to be a thing with the women in NXT. Was when they first came in, they couldn't find their niche. They couldn't find their character, their personality. Becky had a big problem with that because she came out as the dancing Irish girl.
Mm-hmm.
Which she said in her book she hated that gimmick, but she wanted the job and wanted the paycheck, so she did it. And look where she's at now. And same for all the other Four Horsewomen. So Alexa Bliss was no exception to that. She just had to find her shtick and her gimmick. And when she did, she just ran all the way to the bank with it. And Alexa Bliss has had a very incredible career.
Yeah, no, and that's it. Like, I think that's what WWE don't have right now. They don't really have that incubator. And I know they have NXT now, but even when you're watching that show, it's more like teaching people how to be a WWE star rather than lightning in a bottle, where you have a bunch of the indie guys working there with people who may or may not have that same experience and everyone kind of learning together. And that's the difference. This card had some green as grass people, that is true, but they also had a lot of people who are in the indies mixing it together and raising it up. And I don't think AEW do that. WWE definitely don't do that. And it is kind of an unfortunate thing where AEW have replaced this. NXT at this point, basically, as I said, it is the prototype for AEW, and it's the one where they followed. And that's why it's so good. Like, genuinely, that's why it's so good.
Oh, yeah.
TNA, unfortunately, don't have that either. They kind of have to build their own thing. And you don't really get that lightning in a bottle. Again, AEW get it sometimes, though. But long term, I think they would benefit more, or like we would benefit more watching as WWE fans or watching WWE if something like this still existed. Now, how do you get that? I don't know. But look at who's on this. And they're either in the main event of WWE right now, they're literally Hall of Fame inductees in the waiting, or they're big stars in AEW.
Yep.
It speaks for itself. It really does. Look, Apollo Crews and Ty Dillinger, this wasn't a great match. Apollo Crews would get the win in this. I mean, if you've seen one Apollo Crews match, you kind of seen all of them.
Yeah, agreed.
I never really saw any great thing here from Ty Dillinger. So it was a 4-minute rest spot filled match. I was glad when it was over. The next match disappointed me. I love Samoa Joe, one of the best. He's obviously TNA true and true kind of thing. Yeah. Former TNA champion, former AEW champion, former NXT champion. So you're like, oh, it's going to be great. Baron Corbin walks out. I love Baron Corbin's music. I really like his finish. His finish is great, the end of days. And his and even Deep Six is really good. So his moveset, he has a few really good matches. He doesn't have really good matches. Sorry. He has some really good moves. Should have really good matches. He does not. I've never seen a good Baron Corbin match in my life. He's not a work rate guy. He has the look to an extent. He has all the tools, but he never really found his feet. We didn't find it here. Wouldn't find it in WWE. I watched the AEW match. He didn't find it there either. But if you can't get a good match out of Samoa Joe, I don't know what to tell you. And this match didn't do anything for me. What about you?
One thing I took from this match was the video package before. When
great.
Baron Corbin is talking about, I was an offensive lineman in the NFL, and and then I made a phone call and said, you need to have me here, and they called me in. And then Samoa Joe counters, yeah, they may have called you, or you may have called them, but they called me, and that's what makes me better. And I'm like, dude, Samoa Joe's I'd forgotten who had won this match. Like, Samoa Joe's winning this match. It's just a matter of how.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Samoa Joe can make anybody look like $1 million. And this was just kind of wasted on Baron Corbin. And I hate to say that, but this is a guy who later on would win the Money in the Bank contract and then lose said contract match.
Mm-hmm.
That says everything about Baron Corbin's career in WWE. Right there. Says it all.
And look,
there's nothing more I can say about it.
You can't chalk it up to just that because, Vince McMahon made Vince McMahon decisions.
That's true.
But what I don't understand is how he keeps getting these chances. Because when he left WWE, he was the authority figure in WWE for 5 years, easy.
Something like that.
And he didn't do anything. He'd just always be there. And then when he finally does get let go, he goes up and is in AEW. And I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah, he was an offensive linebacker, but it's like, you're not a good wrestler,
And there's rumors that Danhausen on SmackDown he's got some sort of laboratory where he's making something. The rumors are saying it's Baron Corbin's return to WWE. That's the rumors that I've been hearing. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I'm hearing.
Okay, so I'm having a look here.
I mean, so if Danhausen can uncurse okay.
So his last match on television, it wasn't even television. It was a dark match before Dynamite in January this year, right? And he's been in the Indies since April. Major League Wrestling. That's where he is now. Yeah, that could happen, actually. That could happen. The thing about it is, it's like, I'm not shocked that he didn't survive in AEW because it is a work rate company and he isn't that guy. But he doesn't have, like, you know what? A gimmick with Danhausen actually probably wouldn't be a bad thing for him because it's not like the Kozlov thing with Santino Marella where he was shoehorned as a comedy character, but it kind of saved him as well. But the difference was he was a threat at some point and even had a world title match with Triple H that didn't go well and all that kind of stuff. With Baron Corbin, yeah, you know what? I could see that. And it would be terrible if he's in the ring. So just don't let him near the ring. But same with Danhausen. Nobody watches Danhausen for his matches. You don't care if Danhausen wrestles or not. But yeah, that's where he is now. He's in Major League Wrestling. To be fair, he did get a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, so he can do something. Yeah, fair play to him. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just don't. Yeah, so I'm having a look here. The Observer gave him the most overrated 2 years in a row and the worst gimmick at one of the same years.
Yeah.
Most hated wrestler of the year from Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Whoa. Ooh. Man, you know what? You have to give it to him. He's still going.
You made a list. It's the wrong one.
Yeah. But look, this match again, it is one of the things that you can skip. It's not very good. It's unfortunate. That's the thing. When you're watching it, it's unfortunate. The video package was great. Joe has so much aura when he comes out, and then it's just gone. It's just gone. But hey, look, you get your toilet break, so that's not a bad thing either. Our next match is actually really decent, despite Sasha Banks being there. It's a 20-minute classic. Bayley defeats Sasha via pinfall for the NXT Women's Championship. I actually really like these two girls together. Look, again, Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, whatever you want to call her. She's talented in the ring for sure. All our matches kind of seem the same, but when it works, it really works. Yeah. And with Bayley here is one of the... So, look, again, I've seen her wrestle a bunch of times in person. And it's the same kind of thing. It's like, if she's in there with a girl who's going to do something creative, it's actually going to be one of the best matches of the night. If she's in there with someone who she's either trying to lead along, or someone who's learning, or somebody who isn't as good as her, it's actually going to be terrible. It's like the John Cena problem no, it's not the John Cena problem. It's the Randy Orton problem, where if Randy Orton decides he wants to wrestle, he's going to have a great match. If he decides he wants to get a paycheck and he's worried about the pizza he's going to have later, it's going to be a bad match, right? This wasn't This wasn't the latter. This was about 20 minutes of an actual really enjoyable match.
I can argue it was the match of the night.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, go on.
Because of the fact that Bayley had multiple opportunities to win this title from different women that held the title, and just always came up short. And then at this point, Sasha Banks is overplaying her hand, talking about, "Oh yeah, you're the underdog. You're never going to win." You know, this is Hugger Bayley. This is the original OG Bayley before she got a Karen haircut, cut the inflatable tool people, and just became this complete opposite of what she was in NXT, and even at the beginning of her main roster run. This was a great match, and there was a couple of spots that were like, ooh, okay. But they overcame, and again, these two women would fight again later on in a 30-minute Iron Woman match for, I forget what paper or what NXT show that was, but that was the one that Sasha Banks yells at Izzy Monroe, who was like the biggest Bayley fan, and makes her cry ringside. So there's some long-term storytelling going on here.
Mm-hmm. And there is. And again, those matches that have that, either like the ladder story where it's like the person has struggled to get there, or they're trying to get that back door, like you said, where Sasha was trying to win, but in different ways. It adds that extra layer to it. And I think Becky as well at this point, but Bayley and Sasha both had their character down. They both knew where they were. They knew what they were doing. The fans had connected with both. Both girls here were quite loved by the live crowd. Obviously, look, Bayley being this super huge babyface, because it is, I said, it's Hugger Bayley, the whole thing. And Sasha's great in this too. You know, she really is. So it's a very, very enjoyable match. Look, I would say, yeah, if the ladder match wasn't here, it'd be easily a match of the night. But even with the ladder match being here, it's still kind of match of the night. And that's crazy to think. That's wild, because again, this is the same card with the legend that is Jushin Thunder Liger showing up, and they were all overshadowed by these two girls going out and just having a straight 20-minute ladder match. Wrestling match, followed by the ladder match, which was still not overshadowed by them. Insane. Wild stuff. So, speaking of which, I loved this video package. Video package was incredible, right?
Yep.
I really did. I forgot what a menace Kevin Owens was, because at this point, I totally get why you didn't like him at the time. He'd killed John Cena. He had killed Sami Zayn. He had just dominated his way through. I remember watching NXT the night Kevin Owens debuted, because I used to watch it live every week. You know, in Ireland, which is funny. Yeah. You know, you just stay up to 4 a.m. on a random Tuesday. Why not? And I remember him showing up, and, you know, Sami Zayn had won the title, and he hug, and he picks him up and just kills him, and then like pop-up powerbombs him onto the side of the ring, which I'd never seen before. I was like, oh my God, that looks like a hurt, because it probably did, you know? Yeah. And I was like, okay, I love Kevin Owens. I'm right here. Then he'd win the title, show up on Raw, kill John Cena. I was like, hell yeah, get him again, you know? So I was one of those fans, wanted to see him poop birds. So I was all about Kevin Owens, right? But Finn Balor, he's from Bray. It's 20 minutes up the road, right? Bray, he created the Irish wrestling scene. Finn Balor is a legend, Fergal Devitt. You know, I love Finn Balor. So I was so invested in this when this happened. You know, it was so cool when Finn won the NXT title. It was a huge event. I remember being upset that nobody cared in Ireland. Well, people did, but they didn't, because it's, you know, even when Sheamus won the title, no one cared because it's WWE, you know? So NXT, they'd be like, what's that? Did you sneeze? You know, it's like, no. But yeah, like, so it was great to kind of go down memory lane in that sense. The entrances were top notch. I love Kevin Owens coming out going, hey, I used to watch this up there, and now I'm here main eventing it. That was awesome. Finn Balor's entrance, obviously, with the demon doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. And the match, absolutely killing each other. Insane spots. You forget how nimble Kevin Owens actually was. Look, he's a bigger guy, so him actually doing moonsaults and, pop up power bombs from different weird positions and getting out of the way of, Finn, who's a lot lighter and a lot more agile, you think.
Yeah.
It's insane how evenly matched they were, but then Owens has that power advantage, has that weight advantage, and is able to just punish Finn Balor. So you weren't really sure. There were points in this match where I was like, again, I knew who was winning, but at this point in this match, you're going, oh my God, he nearly did it, or he's going to do it, Absolute incredible storytelling.
And this was actually the first Finn Balor match I'd ever seen in NXT. It was this match. I didn't know who Finn Balor was. Didn't know anything about the guy. Unfortunately, I wasn't a big indie wrestling fan at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't watch New Japan. So and I'm watching this guy and I'm going, who is this guy? So I did a little research on Google and I found out he was Irish. I was like, okay, I'm a fan that quick.
I'm right here.
Same with Shannon.
Yeah.
Anybody who's Irish, I'm going to give them 100% of my love because I am Irish American, but I will give them the flowers they deserve. And Finn Balor, oh my God, this dude is incredible in the ring. And we talk about this ladder match almost a year to the day. He would be on the main roster at SummerSlam fighting Seth Rollins for the newly created Universal Championship.
Yeah.
Almost a year to the day.
Which again, one of the best matches which you can see. Unfortunately, he'd get hurt and never really get that opportunity again up until this year, when he had his run with Punk in Belfast. So,
overdue. He's way overdue for a title run.
Dude,
there's a lot of people on the roster that have been there for a while that are, The Miz is another example of that. He's just doing the goofy stuff that he does. He deserves one final title run.
Dude, I think Finn's going to get it this year, if not next year. Like, he is genuinely one of your main eventers still has a lot of juice left in him. Because if you look at this card as well, Kevin Owens is injured. Joe is not there. He's in AEW. Who else would you have from this time period that you can slot in as well as Finn Balor? There's no one there. Like I said, a lot of people here, they've either got injured or their career has reached a point. Finn is still out there, and we've seen it. That match that he had with Punk at Belfast. Again, one of the biggest regrets I have of this year is not being there. I should have just went. But I will say, my SummerSlam ticket for this year, and remember, it's SummerSlam, on the a floor seating, was $300 cheaper than if I had have went to Raw. So that's why I didn't. So I tell myself that when I feel like, I should have been there. But that match alone shows that Finn Balor is able to carry that title. And then his match with Dom, his street fight, even more so. So yeah, man, I think Finn Balor is still due that title run. He's not injured, hasn't been in a while. We'll just see what happens, because look, there's a lot of changeable stuff at the moment with Obafemi on the rise, with the bloodline thing obviously not working as well as people wanted to work, or maybe it is. We'll just kind of see, I'm obviously with Cody Rhodes, the all that Cody Rhodes thing, there is
the Cody coma. Yeah.
The Cody coma, yeah. But all that Cody Rhodes thing where there needs to be some kind of shakeup. It's just there. Finn Balor, it can step in, and I do think he will eventually. And if you guys think that we're crazy, you obviously haven't watched this pay-per-view. This pay-per-view is phenomenal. Almost every match delivers in some way. There is a bit of a down period, but it is what it is. Definitely go out of your way. I would give this one a solid B+, if not an A-.
That's what I gave it to.
Really?
I gave it a B+. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I think it's accurate. I think that's the most, if you're feeling generous, fair enough, A-, but I think B+ is a solid one, because, dude, I was watching this and I had a smile on my face the whole time because I was like, this is a great show. This is a great show. And then you look at what happened in SummerSlam at that year and you're like, I don't want to watch that one again,
No.
But yeah, look, we have hit time. Christopher, actually, before we go, you said you wanted to talk about Jey Uso. So I'm going to give you the floor.
Oh.
Tell me.
Now, a lot of people are hating on Jey Uso for him being in the King of the Ring tournament and the finals. I think the finals tonight or next week. I forget what night it is. I have been the biggest advocate for not being a Jey Uso fan. Not a fan, not a yeeter, none of that stuff. And I feel like WWE may have dropped the ball on the women's side, having Raquel lose, and it's going to be Liv versus Charlotte. They could have easily had that Liv versus Raquel. Raquel wins. Okay, cool. You can go for Rhea Ripley and her title. And then she pulls a Batista Evolution and says, no, I'm going for your title. I'm thinking on the men's side, that's what they're going to do with Jey Uso. Is, Roman keeps saying, yeah, if you win the tournament, you can get the belt, all the gold's back of the bloodline, da-da-da-da-da. I think they're going to swerve us on this one. I think Jey Uso is going to turn on Roman and take that title from him. And this will be the only time in history you will ever hear me say, yeet. Hot take.
You know what? Okay. Fair enough. Let's see what happens. I mean, it's probably wrong to be like, look, he got one run and it was a spectacular failure. If it messes up again, okay, fair enough. But like, okay, here's another hot take. I would take Jey Uso as the world champion for the next 3 years over Cody Rhodes being champion for another day.
Damn.
Mic drop.
I don't think you're the only one that feels that way. So,
I'd rather be a yeeter because you know what? Jey Uso's intro is actually pretty fun when you're there and everybody eats and has a good time. It's a fortune that falls apart in the ring. But at least people aren't in a Cody coma. There we go. So, hey man, I think it's a good take, genuinely. So, with that being said, Christopher, is there anything you want to say before we wrap up this week?
Yes, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow Real Zodiac Productions. That is where both of my podcasts are. We have the Real Movie Critics and, of course, DJ Zodiac Podcast. We just recorded our in-depth review of this same show that we did, the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. I already told you my score, but the Psycho Nerd has his score. His score might surprise you. And also on the Movie Critics, we'll be reviewing the 80s classic all-star cast movie, Back to the Beach, just in time for the first day of summer. Go ahead and give those like, subscribe, follow, hit the bell notification. We have new content every week.
Hell yeah. And while you're there, go over to nerdthrowmedia.com, find the link to our YouTube channel or Spotify, and check out all the shows that have been there. We had a bit of a technical issue that has been resolved, and now there are about 9 shows which are there, all free, all good to check out. And if you go over to our YouTube as well, you'll be able to comment and tell us why you agree or disagree on anything that we've said, because we like to cut these up into segments and post them for you. So for my co-host, for everybody here at nerdtoknowmedia.com and Phoenix 92.5 FM, we'll see you in the next one here on the Wrestling Rewind. Bye guys.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.